Welcome to the D2C Slingshot podcast. I'm your host, Lockie Thompson, and I'm also the founder of Social Slingshot, a paid advertising agency. This podcast is your go-to resource for e-commerce entrepreneurs seeking insights from industry leaders and experts. If you magically stumbled across this podcast, I'm truly grateful you've chosen to listen. If you have any questions whatsoever or specific topics you'd like us to cover, do not hesitate to reach out to me on Instagram at LockieSocialSlingshot. While this podcast is tailored to the broader e-commerce community, if you're ever in need of direct marketing assistance, remember that Social Slingshot is here to help. Our mission is to drive as much success for as many e-commerce brands as possible by being the most results-driven and client-focused agency in the market. Now, with all the admin stuff taken care of, let's dive straight into today's episode. G'day everyone, welcome back to the D2C Slingshot podcast. Today I'm joined with Sam, the founder of Pyra, and I just want to give a bit of background history to how you've grown multiple brands to millions of dollars and now your focus is on Pyra.
Yeah, so I originally grew up in New Zealand. I did a graphic design degree originally. And having a graphic design degree is kind of a pretty good platform to break into the apparel industry. You can do everything from your branding to logos to your website, your technical drawings for garments and, everything kind of in between. So that was kind of my first step into the industry. I worked for a couple of pretty big retailers designing their in-house brands in Sydney for about 5 years, between 2008 and 2000 and probably about 12, I'd say. And then I started another brand called Dead Studios, which I grew with a team with retail stores and wholesale accounts. And then at the end of 2018, I sold that brand to Culture Kings. And then I started Pyra. And Pyra for me was a brand that kind of was a more relatable to my lifestyle. I grew up in New Zealand. I spend a lot of time in the outdoors and do a lot of sports. And I felt what was missing in the market was technical streetwear that's built for the elements. So taking my streetwear design experience and then bridging it between, my love for the outdoors. And I used to be a semi-professional skier back when I was in my late teens, early 20s. So I've always had exposure to really good brands in terms of outerwear and what that sort of quality needs to be and, their waterproof technical functions. So it kind of just led me on to going down the rabbit hole of designing Pyra and kind of finding a niche in the market.
Yeah, cool. And Pyra is a pretty interesting name. How did you come up with that?
Yeah, so I've always been attracted to brand names that have 4 letters. You've got the obvious one like Nike. The best thing about them is they're short, they're punchy, and they're symmetrical. So if they're on a hat like this, it's nice and clean to have. And when I was in Sydney one day, at the end of 2018 and that kind of transition year, when I was kind of brainstorming brand names, I saw a billboard that had the word pyramid on it and it had Pyra and then MID underneath it. I can't remember what it was actually advertising, but my eye was just drawn to Pyra and I was like, damn, that's a strong name. Then I jumped onto I always then just kind of banked it in my mind for probably 6 months and then kind of went down the Google route as you do of kind of looking to see what the brand name is and what it kind of means. And I kind of found out that it means born of flame in ancient Greek. And not only was it quite a rare word, like the domain was free, the trademark was free, there was no other apparel brands that had this name, Instagram was free. So it was kind of like this perfect golden nugget. Like it's pretty rare to try and find a brand name in our day that has 4 letters. So I kind of struck gold with that, and it kind of even made more sense when I kind of went deep into finding more about the meaning. You've obviously got earth, water, air, and fire as the 4 elements that everything is made up of. And I knew Pyra needed to be a technical outdoors apparel brand. So having those 4 elements kind of tied perfectly back into the brand name and kind of, looped it all together.
Yeah, awesome. And over the last 3 years since you started the brand, you've made
Yeah,
multi millions of dollars. Do you just want to describe how your streetwear is different or outerwear is different to compared to other brands like maybe Kathmandu or something like that?
yeah, sure. I think like when I was like, because I've been a designer for so many years, I kind of, I'm inspired by brands, like Palace or Stussy or Supreme, but then I'm also love brands that are proper technical outerwear brands. You've got like the North Face, for example, or Patagonia with that sustainability front. So I kind of wanted to bridge the gap between the two, and I felt like there was no one really kind of tapping that kind of element of combining those streetwear aesthetics and then putting them together with that outdoor kind of look. So yeah, I kind of found a sweet spot in the market for Pyra, and I think that is why we were able to get such good cut through early on. Um, yeah,
Yeah. And one of the things that caught my eye about your brand is obviously that graphic design experience has helped and your Instagram is super attractive. I'm not a big like streetwear guy at all. That's why I just wear a plain black t-shirt. But
so
when
do
I
I.
went to your Instagram, I was like, wow, this is like amazing. And like it actually looks good. It looks functional and everything like that. And then you also had some awesome golf videos on your Instagram at the time when I first checked you guys out.
Yeah,
How obviously your experience with graphic design, but then you also moved into some video content as well. How did
yeah.
you get everything looking so good? Was that from your own experience playing around with different things, or did you hire a professional for that?
No, I just did it all myself. I think, because this was my second time round the block, so to speak. I had a really clear vision of what I wanted Pyra to be. So I spent, a good 6 months doing brand guidelines, what our mission was, what we're going to stand for, what our values are going to be, and really put the groundwork into making a really clear brand book from the start. And because of that, we've had, you mentioned our Instagram, but if you tie that back to all of our branding on our garments, everything is consistent. And that's super key for me because then it makes it recognizable. And, we use that Pyra bright vault color, which you can kind of see behind me on
Hmm.
that swing, on that folded pit. But, you know, that was really key for me in terms of having a really strong brand. And I've always been super big on branding ever since I was at school. I remember like, drawing up brands in my art book when I was like 15. So I've always been obsessed with brand, whether that is, the big ones. I've always been quite loyal to them as well. So I suppose just having that brand obsession from the start made sure that Pyre had to be super clear. And yeah,
Yeah. Now, obviously, Pyra isn't your first brand that you started. We'll just go back and backtrack a little bit. What were some of the mistakes you made within that first business or things that you did differently to when you started Pyra?
I think just going back to having a clear brand mission and brand guidelines and knowing exactly who our customer was. I think with my old brand, we were trying to do too much for not the same customer.
Hmm.
We were doing denim and a lot of that distressed denim, and we were early on that bike trends, which made us grow rapidly through the likes of like the Culture Kings and all of those stores. But then we also have women's activewear, and that also blew up because we were able to get it onto Kylie Jenner about 5 times and all the Kardashians. So we got some massive growth there. But my I think, like when I look back on it in hindsight, kind of that ego barrier was I probably could have pivoted the brand just to be a woman's activewear brand at that stage. But I suppose me as a designer felt like, I still wanted to carry on that route. And so the brand, I think, looking back on it, just felt a little bit confused of who it kind of was. It wasn't trying to own that one customer. So I suppose now when I'm thinking of Pyra, I'm really strategic in terms of, what makes sense for the brand. Especially like when we're launching new product categories, it needs to still be for that customer and have that exact customer in mind in everything that we do, with our design, with our marketing. We kind of identify him, we've given him a name internally. His age is sweet spot age is 28. We know the sports that he plays, we know the brands that he likes, we know his favorite shoes. So having a really clear idea of who that customer is has been super critical for Pyra's success, because it means that we don't deviate off the path trying to chase, this next shiny object.
Yeah, brand communication is so important, and it's something that I've kind of been like more open to over the past 12 months. When I first started marketing about 5 years ago, I didn't know too much about it. You just sort of like, oh yeah, just chuck some colors on it and yeah, should be right. But it really does go to a super deep level, and I swear the rabbit hole keeps getting deeper and deeper every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. And and all of that goes back to, how you're portraying your Facebook ads, and making sure like those brand colors come through. But you kind of mentioned, the video content in that last question, making sure like our brand mission is to inspire movement in the elements. So a lot of our brand content is shot outdoors. Our main goal is to inspire our customers to get back outdoors, basically. So we do that by world-class content, world-class product, and world-class customer service. And having those three brand kind of pillars all playing at one.
Yeah. And you mentioned Culture Kings a couple of times, and they're obviously a big player in the streetwear space. What sort of things did you learn from watching them, or even selling your business to them, or the collaboration that you guys had?
Yeah, so we, when I sold my previous business to them, I actually started Pyra with Simon Beard, the owner of Culture Kings. And so we, for the first 2.5 years, we were working basically internally with the Culture Kings team. And it was great because we were able to expand into all of their stores from the get-go, plus all of their online store. And we were able to ride off their massive growth that they had during COVID. And so for starting a new brand, to be able to get exposure to their customer base at that volume, it was, it would have costed millions and millions of dollars in marketing dollars just to get that sort of reach. And it was kind of why we were able to grow so fast, so quickly, is just by getting that leg up. Since then, we're not in that partnership anymore, since they got bought out by AKA, which is a private equity company in the US. In the start of 2021, I was able to buy back the brand from that public company. And so we're now privately owned again, which has been great. It means that, we're still able to sell to Culture Kings and the likes of David Jones for our wholesale business, and a few other independents. But it means that we can create our own vision and drive the brand the way that we want to, and not be completely dictated by how the retailer wants our brand to be.
Yeah. And I know Culture Kings and Simon Beard had a big focus on experience, especially within the store. Now, from my understanding, you also have a store in Sydney, but then you also have the online. How have you found like balancing those two? And do you have a favorite?
We only did a pop-up store in Sydney that wasn't a permanent space, but the experience kind of thing is really key for a brand like ours, because we are majority online. We can be shopped in other retailers, like I mentioned, but a pop-up is a great way for us to create a experience for our consumer that we can control the whole environment. They can come and see the whole range. They can come and meet me and my staff. They can learn about the products one-on-one. I feel, when our brand is stocked in some other wholesale companies, it can kind of get a little bit lost, and our brand story can't be told as clear as when we can do it ourselves. But because we're based, because a lot of our sales are online, it's also kind of been key as well, just to show that kind of experience for our customers and make sure that we're popping up where they are as well. So that's going to be a continued strategy this year as well. We want to do one in Melbourne midway through the year, and just continually being top of mind as well. We do plan to roll out our own retail stores eventually, but we'll do that when the time is right. I think there's some good opportunities to do these pop-ups in the time being, and create some hype around the brand. And
Yeah, for sure. And you just, obviously it's a lot of community building, and I understand you've started like a walking group or a hiking club sort of thing. Is that continuing on this year as well?
Yeah, absolutely. That's been epic. So we do Pyra Outdoor Enthusiast Club, which has been an awesome way for us to meet our community one-on-one. We started off basically during COVID, just like me and a few groups of friends, and then we kind of just grew this into this awesome community. Each hike we kind of get between 20 and 40 people coming on them. We try and do them once a month on a Saturday. We tend to do them just around the Gold Coast, which is where we are based, but the outdoors environment around the Goldie is amazing. There's so many awesome hikes that are not a far drive from where we all live. And it's been a great way for us to build community, and it kind of just, shows that we're out there doing it. We're not just an online outdoors brand that's just trying to push outdoors clothing, and we're not actually out there doing it ourselves. So it's been great. We've met so many new people on these hikes as well, and it's not just a boys club as well. We get a heap of girls coming on them as well. We partner with my other friends' sandwich company called Joe's Deli, and we provide sandwiches on most of the hikes as well. So it's been a cool way to kind of collab on that at kind of grassroots level and build the brand.
Yeah, awesome. I actually work with a swimwear brand at the moment, and they obviously do pop-up tents around the swim carnivals and stuff like that. And just the following that they've got from doing those events has been super powerful. They're super loyal because they actually get to meet the brand founder, whereas a lot of e-commerce businesses sort of shy away from the fact that they actually own the business. They don't show you their face or anything.
And there's not like a direct ROI on those things. I feel like they're just the little 1%ers that you do each day that keeps the brand moving forward, and it's amazing how many people bring up those hike clubs in conversation with me, because people are clearly seeing them in other cities and being like, that's a really cool thing. So it's definitely part of our long-term strategy. We want to start doing them in Sydney and Melbourne as well. I think like next time we do a pop-up in Melbourne, we'll tie in a hike in that same weekend as well, which would be good.
Yeah, just make sure it's shitty weather. Well, it always is in Melbourne, so you might be able to sell a few more jackets.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. Now, speaking of selling, you've told me that you've just come off your biggest Black Friday ever. Do you just want to run through some of those strategies that led to that result?
Yeah, for sure. It all just came down to planning for us. We started planning it probably 4 months in advance. To hit the budgets that we needed, we obviously needed stock. And so we pre-bought into the sale this year. For the first time, we printed a shitload of tees on our blanks locally just to give a lot of width and then also depth into those kind of key sellers. Another strategy that we did is we did a GWP, a gift with purchase, to lift our AOV. So we did this custom puffer tote bag, which was valued at $100 to lift our AOV, which is free with any purchase over $150. So that worked really well. And then just having our ad strategy super dialed. We ran hype ads for 3 days to a website that was closed, which is a pretty ballsy thing to do, and spending a fair amount of that budget. But it meant that we were creating so much hype within that release date. By the time that we went on sale on that, I actually can't remember the exact date, but it was the Thursday. At that 6 p.m., we had a couple of thousand people on our site ready to purchase. So it was a great way to hit that sale with a heap of momentum. And then just creating a ton of content throughout the sale and just trying to keep it fresh. So not just running, plain static ads the whole way through it. Creating heaps of video ads especially for it, and a lot of talking videos, and just really trying to be top of mind. We also went a little bit earlier this year because we found during the actual Black Friday weekend, the cost per acquisition blew out massively. So by having that sale 10 days before the actual Black Friday was really key this year, because we were able to do most of our sales at a profitable rate and keep our MER fairly low during that start, where at the end of the sale, MER started to get pretty high just because it was so competitive in the market.
Yeah, for sure. And for a lot of brand owners, especially new start ones, I don't think they realize how much planning actually goes into Black Friday. And some
Yeah.
of them just try to wing it like a couple of weeks out. Uh,
Yeah.
what sort of time frame do you start, or what month did you start planning for Black Friday?
It was probably around April or May, just to try and get those timelines for production right. Making sure like it wasn't a last minute thing of like, oh, let's get to November and just sell what we have left, because there wasn't there's no way we would have hit our numbers. So we needed to have volume in those key styles, but also being really strategic on our pricing strategy as well was key. We advertised it up to 70% off, but majority of things were really only 30 and 50, with a few bait styles at 70. And so it meant that our GP margin still landed around 55 for Black Friday period, which is, still pretty great. Where a lot of brands you might look at, might just dump everything at 70% and then not really realizing the impact on their gross margin and their profitability at the end of the month. They might have nuked a ton of stock at that low price and, not had that much left in the bank after the ads had gone out.
Yeah, and it's very difficult. And like you said, if you didn't do any planning, you left it to Black Friday or the Black Friday weekend, and you're trying to rush and get ads up, like that CPM cost is going through the roof during that time as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, another strategy that I've seen on your website at the moment, and it's a pretty popular one for clothing brands particularly, is the mystery boxes. How have those been selling since you put them on the site?
Yeah, really good. We first actually tested them in Black Friday during the end of the sale, and we just did one box at $200 that had, I think, 600 worth of value. And now, so we launched them again in January. It's a better way to protect brand equity in the market. It doesn't feel super salesy, but it's also a good way that you can clear some older styles, but you really have to be careful that you don't just treat it as in we're just going to give all our customers our shitter styles, because you really want the customer to feel like that they got a lot of value, and especially to get that return rate so they buy it each time. Eventually we want to get to a place where we're developing exclusive product, especially for these mystery boxes, where the customer gets stuff that they've never seen before. So that was kind of a tactic that Culture Kings used to use when I was there. They'd have different tiered ones all the way up, and it was all considered not for sale products that you couldn't buy on their online store, but you got this ton of value if you spent this much.
Yeah, that sounds way better. And I know my girlfriend has been done by mystery boxes by a brand, and you could definitely tell it was just all the shit that they couldn't sell. It's like, what the hell's this? I didn't even know you sold this to start with.
That's the thing, because a lot of brands will just chuck all their old samples in and everything. But yeah, we've kind of been a little bit more protective of that because we are a premium price point brand. I would, it doesn't feel right chucking an old sample that's, a poor fitting garment just into a mystery box just because I need to clear it. Like all these behind me essentially are samples. So it's like, we're better off doing a sample sale or a warehouse sale just to clear that sort of stuff. So
yeah, for sure. And what else are you working on throughout 2024? Like, you've just had a bit of a break. I believe you went back to New Zealand, and I'm sure you had some thoughts going through your mind over that period.
Yeah, I mean, we just want to keep up the momentum of where we're going. We're growing so fast at the moment, which adds a little bit of added pressure to the business, but just making sure that our planning is done correctly, making sure that our core styles are always in stock and stock forecasting those out. We're going to do Complex Con later in the year, which is a consumer event in Melbourne. They're a big USA trade show, but for consumers. So that's going to be pretty epic. They keep moving the dates around at the moment. Then we've got 3 collabs that we're working on this year as well, which is super exciting. And then, we're going to in terms of like key categories, we're still building out our street category, our outdoors category, our sport category. We're really going to focus on this year as well, and build that out with more styles and trying to really kind of tap that sports consumer. And then we've still got our golf as well. So we're kind of, that golf release in December went crazy for us. It was, it kind of blew me away how well it went. I think it translated really well with who our customer is, but we're also able to tap a heap of new customers with that release. So we'll start building that out as well and adding more styles to that capsule.
Yeah. With golf, I feel like it's really grown over the past couple of years. Maybe it's something to do with TikTok, but that's where I first got introduced to golf and saw how fun it could be with all the memes.
Yeah.
And if you look at the PGA page at the moment, the official page, there is a lot of memes being posted and introducing like younger audiences to the game. So I feel like you've got in at a pretty good time for golf.
Yeah, I think it's just like the changer guards. There's always been these old legacy brands in the sport, and they really haven't had a shake up in a long time. And you're right, there's a lot of this younger generation are coming through, are playing golf, and they're not wanting to wear something their dad and their granddad used to wear. So these brands that are popping off really have that street inspired aesthetic, and they're the ones that are kind of able to get cut through.
Yeah, and I think Live Golf has helped with that a lot as well. For
100%.
anybody who
Yeah,
anyone
sure.
who isn't as familiar with golf, it was a pretty disruptive competition and poached some PGA players and stuff like that. So I'm pretty into my golf as well. So I'm keen to see some new releases that you guys have coming out.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, obviously, to get cut through in the clothing or apparel industry, it's really hard, especially for newbies. What sort of advice would you have to somebody starting out in this niche?
I mean, make sure that you can get the product to a level that you're super happy with. Have super clear brand guidelines of understanding what the brand means and stands for and what it looks like, understanding what your consumer is, focus on community building, on how you can do that, within that niche. Try and really kind of tap into that. Then I would say become really good at Facebook ads and digital marketing and do it yourself. I would like, now with AI getting so good, you can basically, tap into Advantage Plus ads and just run all of your content through them and really kind of focus on thinking about, your marketing in terms of, what are the benefits for that product for your consumer, and just try and be everywhere. I think, TikToks, you see a lot of young brands popping off on them, and the ones that do it are telling their story. Their founders are in front of the camera. They're the ones talking about the product. They might even be in their bedroom. I've seen like a heap of brands in the last month just showing their start right from the get-go, and people are buying into that because they like showing the journey. And we even find with us, like, we'll spend 10 grand on a super polished campaign, which is great for brands, but it quite often doesn't move the needle in terms of what we need to do in terms of making the brand feel premium, but also making sure that you're able to get cut through because it's super competitive. And I think just trying to find a niche and if you can do everything yourself early on, tap into being a graphic designer, it really, really helps because, as I said at the start, you're able to do everything from website mock-ups to your graphics, to your logos, to your tech packs in China or wherever you're making your clothing. It's never been easier these days. There's a lot of really great blank suppliers out there now. So the barrier of entry is super low. You could literally start a brand with $500 if you wanted to go buy some Gildan blanks, a couple of hoods, a couple of tees, go get them printed locally, start a Shopify website within 2 hours. It'll cost you $100. Good to go.
Yeah, I think what is super important just to be different from other people is, like you said, get on camera, even if it is in your messy bedroom. Like I find myself even watching those people more because I know they're hustling. I know they're working hard to make their product better and build their audience and stuff like that. So that resonates with me as well.
Yeah, and it's something that, I need to remind myself to do more of as well, to be honest. And we are, now starting to focus on that, and it's trying to build a personal brand around the brand as well. I think like in the past, I used to kind of let the brand be the brand, but now I'm trying to put myself in front of the camera more often, because I feel like people want to know who's behind it. They want to see follow the story. They want to know who the founder is. They want to know why you started it. They want to feel involved and buy into, what the brand stands for.
Yeah, and it's building that personal connection, and they're going to turn into repeat customers more than if you're going to go buy from, I don't know, somewhere down the road, some major retailer.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, like when you talk about these super big outdoors brands, like the Kathmandus and the North Faces and stuff, they're obviously, well, they're almost billion-dollar companies, but, that's where the opportunity for us young brands is to, take market share from them by doing it the new way. Those old brands, they can't pivot like we can. So we can, create content within the same day, and you can have it live. We might not have the store footprint that they have, but, we can definitely tap into that younger generation of people on the up.
Yeah. And I think TikTok's a perfect platform for that, because if you ever go to those major retailers, and if they do have a TikTok, it's pretty funny to see just the different styles of content they're posting compared to what's trending.
Yeah, totally. But it's even for us, we're learning with that every day as well, and just testing. Some things that we think are going to go really well get, stuck at 400-500 views, and then, you do a bit of a rogue one and it hits 150,000. So yeah. I don't know. We're still learning with the TikTok strategy as well. But yeah, just trying to keep content coming out every day.
Yeah, for sure. And just before we jump off today, what's a key mindset or a quote that has kept you going over all these years?
Fail forward, I'd say. Learn from don't be afraid to learn from your mistakes. I've obviously had a fair few in my career, but, it's kind of set me forward of where I want to be with Pyra, and it's given me confidence to back myself, to take the brand to where I really want to.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks so much for jumping on today. Just before we do stop this podcast, do you just want to give a quick plug to your socials and where people can interact with you?
Yeah, for sure. So Pyra is pyraelements.com, so Pyra. And then our Instagram is just Pyra __. We're still trying to get the Pyra official one, but this guy won't reply to me. And then same with TikTok is Pyra __. And then my personal one is just at @SamMoore _hi.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for coming on today, and we'll see everybody in the next episode. Hey D2C Slingshot listeners, unfortunately this episode has come to an end. If you did make it this far, I'm pretty sure you enjoyed it, so how about hitting the thumbs up, leaving a comment, or even smashing subscribe. Any engagement or feedback truly helps us improve and grow. And remember, if you have any questions at all or insights you'd like to share, the best place to reach me is on Instagram @LockieSocialSlingshot. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.